You are watching Cybersec 2020 Global Studio. My name is Magda Petryniak. I'm the Communication Director at the Kosciuszko Institute, the organizer of this Cybersec event, and I'm very pleased to welcome my next guest, Neal Pollard, Chief Information Security Officer at UBS AG. Neal, welcome.
Thank you, Magdalena.
Thank you for being here with us. You've just moderated an Oxford-style discussion, a panel discussion on splinternet. So as a moderator of that debate, you had to be objective and impartial. But now I would like to ask you, what is your opinion in that matter? Do you believe that splinternet is a legitimate risk?
So the question of splintering, I mean, first of all, it's important to quantify and qualify. When you say splinter, what are you talking about? Are you talking about that the internet won't work unless you're inside one of the countries that's built a wall around it? Or are you talking about that people will sort of go their own way on standards and go their own way on control, and they will have the plenary ability to decide which electrons come in and out of their borders? So I don't think the former is going to be the intentional future. I mean, who knows if there's a glitch or something, but I don't think the former, where electrons will just stop crossing borders, technologically impossible. And I don't think either one of the panelists made that argument too. I think more along the lines of whether we're seeing the increasing end of the free flow of information across borders. And to that, I don't know. I think the answer will be on who has the interest in keeping the internet truly globally governed. Is there a constituency that can counter the concept of the splinter? I will tell you that this is far from the first time this debate is raged. The balkanization or the walled garden concept or the splintering concept, this has been going on for a while. And there are a lot of different trends that could possibly contribute to it. Some are more aligned with authoritarian regimes in the interest of political stability and controlling speech, and therefore controlling the information that comes into your borders. Some are concerned about the information going out of your borders in the interest of privacy and data localization, and making sure that it becomes super difficult to steal or abuse information by taking it out of the country that you otherwise have laws for. So those all sort of argue toward more difficulty in getting electrons over borders. The question is, what's the constituency that would counter that and that would balance the benefits of globalization, the benefits of the free flow of information, of trade, of people, of ideas, of things that, you know, I think lift all countries and all people equally, against the risks of, well, what happens with these different risks and challenges if stolen data goes out or bad data comes in and is destabilizing underway. So the future will depend on where those constituencies line up and how technologists of the world can do what they've always done, which is how the internet was founded. We had people, they wanted to communicate asynchronously. They wanted to deal with, let's call it, you know, transfer control protocol. Let's call it TCP/IP. Let's figure out how to get packets there, no matter, let the packets figure out the way. That is a very technical, tactical description of information writ large. Information globally tends to want to be free. Information wants to be free. It doesn't like borders. And past attempts at frustrating the flow of information, however you conceive it, don't usually last that long.
Yeah, thank you. We're living in very, very unprecedented times. I think we can say that the COVID-19 is one of the major disruptions. We will be talking a lot about how COVID-19 redefined key sectors of economy. So I'd like to ask you that question and especially focus on banking. So how has COVID-19 redefined key sectors of economy, and how has that redefinition of cybersecurity in the banking sector looked from your perspective?
Sure. Well, I think that COVID, first of all, has been an unmitigated, just an unprecedented tragedy that's been happening. It's had health consequences that are very dire. It's had social consequences that are dire, and it's had economic consequences that are dire. But it has vindicated the investments that a lot of firms, especially in the banking industry, but other firms, it's justified the investments that were made, not anticipating that we would have this kind of health crisis, not anticipating that we would see so many people working remotely and working from home. But the technology investments a lot of firms have made, I think, have been really well justified now, seeing that with technology comes resilience, comes the ability to pivot and to adapt to an extraordinary and unpredicted circumstance. But it's also, I think while the threat hasn't changed in fundamental nature as a result of COVID, I think that neither has cybersecurity qualitatively. Quantitatively, I think the cybersecurity, that the COVID has shown again the importance of the user's role in cybersecurity and how much responsibility users truly do have in keeping secure internet and keeping cyberspace secure. So, I mean, when you see it, what a lot of firms have gone into and the investments they've made for flexible workplace, for digitization and converting their old products and services into digital formats, right? Turns out that scales really well. And it scales to a world where physical transport is now severely hampered. Digital transport is preferable sometimes. Physical meetings, can't do physical meetings a lot these days. Digital meetings, working from home. Flexibility was always important. Now it's life-saving. So I think the investments on digitization and extension of the workplace have really paid off. And of course, cybersecurity. What's the role of cybersecurity in digitization? If digitization is about converting your products and services into data format, a digital format, and extracting value through that digital product and service, cybersecurity is about protecting and extending and prolonging the value of that digital asset. So that is the role of cybersecurity. That's always been the role in business of cybersecurity, and is continuing to be the role now. So that I don't think has changed, although it certainly has scaled in that who's responsible for protecting your cybersecurity when you're working from home? Okay, it's your home. So depending on how you've configured your systems and how your company extends the remote workplace environment to you, whether it's through VPN or virtual desktop interface or just there's a connection with a box, those put different roles and responsibilities and possible vulnerabilities onto the end user. But in all those circumstances, now there's a business reason to make sure that you have encrypted Wi-Fi at home, that you have strong passwords, that you're careful about which family members or which guests are using which endpoints, that you're careful about making sure your camera is truly off when you go to bed at night or you put a block on it. Those are all things that were, help avoided nuisances at home. Now they're critical for making your workspace at home viable for your business and for the safety of your family. So those are all things that I think they've changed in scale. I think they've changed in quantity and importance, but they've always been there. So is the threat. And I haven't seen, by and large, there's been some threats that have changed a little bit, but the threats have always exploited human weakness and vulnerabilities. So phishing hasn't changed that much in terms of how phishing is used, but do we see a phishing campaign increase exploiting anxieties about COVID or anxieties about economic welfare? Absolutely, that's where all the phishing campaigns are going. Now, one thing I will note is ransomware. This has been something we've been seeing an increase on quite a bit over the past couple of years before COVID. Possibly now we've seen, possibly the death of a human being as a direct result of ransomware. Ransomware in the public health sector, again, not new. We have seen ransomware criminals targeting hospitals in the past, targeting healthcare providers, but given the centrality of the healthcare system, given the importance and frankly the stress placed on hospitals right now, that type of disruption has far more dire consequences now that the health of the public is relying on hospitals being able to work, and so many people have a precarious health position already, and the stress that our healthcare providers are already being put under because of what's happening with COVID. Last thing they need right now is ransomware.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your thoughts. And I just do believe that with such exponential digitalization, the cybersecurity will be a part of a strategic agenda of both corporate and private institutions. Thank you so much for your contribution to this year Cybersec, and we're looking forward to welcoming you at the next event. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time and best of luck. Be safe.